Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk Show with Waylon Lewis. It's a very exciting day because we're here with our longtime friend Byron Katie. Her friends call her Katie. And Katie has agreed to walk us through some of the more important issues around our lives. So we've invited three dear friends of Elephants, to join us. They are Emily Bartran, Dana Gornall, and Ashley Hitchcock, who's here with me. And we begin all Walk the Talk Show interviews with a brief bow honoring our guest. In this case, again, Byron Katie, founder of The Work and best-selling author and a big sweetheart. And so if you're watching this video, you can take a good posture, and we'll just offer a bow of mutual respect and a reminder of our mission in our life, and then we'll do a brief meditation. So take a good posture, root yourself, find your breath, and give it away. And then a brief meditation, very simple Buddhist meditation called shamatha, which is translated as resting the mind in the present moment. So find your breath in and out, again with a good but relaxed posture. And just place your attention on your breath in and out. If you find your attention straying, that's natural, it's fine. Just acknowledge it as thinking and return your attention to the breath. If you hear a weird digital sound, you can just label that distraction thinking and come back to your breath. Okay. So, Katie, thank you so much for joining us.
My privilege. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Waylon.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely our privilege, but your humbleness is a mark of why our readers were so excited to be with you last time. So we asked you back, and we were pleasantly surprised when you agreed to come back. So thank you. Katie, would you be willing to sort of walk us through the work in a very real way, so we can all learn from our friends here? You can start with whomever you want. Maybe you could start with Dana. Dana's a mother and has helped out with Elephant for about a year. She has a couple jobs at least. I think she's very busy. And Dana, do you have a question for Katie?
Well, I have a lot going on. I have 3 children. One is going to be graduating high school tomorrow, and the other one will be entering high school in the fall, and my youngest one will be entering junior high.
Wow.
So just trying to keep everything together, and I think I find it hard to be a disciplinarian and also be a compassionate mom, and be, you know, a good writer and a good editor and a good massage therapist and a good daughter to my parents, and, you know, keep the house clean and the lawn mowed and everything. Just trying to keep everything, all the balls in the air, basically, juggling all the time.
Yeah, you know, that's what it looks like, and you know, if we, you know, let's just do this the easy way, okay? Identify a time when you were disciplining your children or one of your children, and you felt that the compassion that you were in touch with with your compassionate self?
You want me to talk about a time I was disciplining one of them?
Yes, like a situation. Describe a situation with one of your children where you were not being the compassionate mother that you really wanted to be. What was that situation? When was it? Which one of your children?
Well, sometimes they fight.
Well, no, just one situation.
Well, that's one situation when they're fighting and trying to, when I tried to tell them, okay, you need to go in your corner, you need to go in your corner, and being able to not take sides with one of them is very difficult. That happened last night. My oldest daughter, I asked everybody to clean up, and she was taking my youngest daughter's stuff and dumping it on the floor, and my youngest daughter saying, "Why are you dumping my stuff on the floor?" And so trying to be able to mediate that.
Yes, and in that moment, you feel the emotions you were experiencing.
Yes.
Get in touch with that. And what would you name that emotion?
Frustration.
Okay, so frustration. And why were you frustrated?
Because I was trying to get something done and they were fighting.
Okay, so you're frustrated because they were fighting and not listening. Okay, right. So they weren't listening. So do you have a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet in front of you?
No.
Okay, do you have a blank sheet of paper in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, so let's call this statement number 1. I'm frustrated with my children because they're not listening to me.
Okay.
Okay, you have that written down?
Yes.
Okay. So now, the way we opened this event was in meditation. So now I invite you to get very still and imagine yourself in that situation again. Get very in touch with it. In that moment, as you witness your children fighting, what did you want? Identify in that moment, what did you want? What did you want them to do or say or think or feel or be?
I wanted them to feel compassion towards each other. I wanted my oldest one to understand why my youngest one was frustrated, and I wanted my youngest one to understand why my oldest one wanted to clean.
Okay. So I want my children to understand each other. I want them to experience compassion for one another.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for being so in touch. So let's look at the next one. Would be statement number 3 on the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. And for you watching this video now, you can download a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet at thework.com, and you just push print, and it's free. We don't need any information from you. You just can print it out. So now let's look at statement 3 on the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. So close your eyes again. Get very in touch with that situation, that moment. You see them fighting. They're not listening. Okay, what advice would you offer them for you to get what you want? What advice would you offer them?
I would want them to stop worrying about what they wanted themselves at that time and think about how the other one felt.
So you want them to stop worrying about themselves.
Yes.
And you want them to stop, what was it?
I want them to realize what the other one wanted.
I want them to realize the needs of the other.
Yes.
Of the others. Okay. So now we go to statement 4 on the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, and we get in touch with how we felt in that situation, that frustration,
Yes.
those emotions. Now, what would it take? What would they have to say or do or be to take you from frustrated, that emotion, to happiness? I need them to. What do you need to be happy? So those of you listening to this, it takes, this work is meditation. Filling in this worksheet, it is just clearly about getting still and meditating on, in that moment, what do you need to be happy? What do you need from them? I need.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I need
it's
them to stop
interesting. It's
fighting.
interesting, isn't it? Okay, so I need them to stop fighting.
Mhm.
So I need them to stop fighting with each other. Anything else? And
Uh,
notice, would that make you happy? So it feels right to me in that situation. If they just stop fighting, do you need anything else to be happy? Let's say they've stopped fighting.
I'd like them. I'd like them to care about each other a little more. Instead
Excellent.
of worrying about what they wanted at that time. I'd like them to understand each other
So
better.
I need them to care about each other more.
Mhm.
Okay, good. All right, now on statement number 5 on the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, that worksheet is just simply a way to support you in getting still enough to identify the thoughts that are the cause of your frustration. So how can we deal with it if we don't realize the cause of the frustration? We're always going to think it's outside of us, like it's my children that are frustrating me. But no, it's what I'm thinking and believing about my children that frustrates me in that moment. So we're identifying the cause of all suffering. So statement 5, what were your thoughts about your children in that moment when you were so frustrated? They're fighting, you're frustrated, they're not listening to you. They are,
I felt like they were being selfish.
okay, they are selfish.
Mhm.
Okay, anything
Um,
else?
I felt like my oldest one was being immature for her age.
Okay, and immature for her age, and immature for her age.
Mhm. Yes.
My youngest is, we'll just take your words, that's what's important. They're selfish, and my youngest is immature for her age. Okay. Now, this is the last statement on the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. As you look back on that situation, what is it that you never want to experience again with your children or in that situation?
Well,
I don't
anger.
ever want,
I don't want to experience anger toward them.
I don't ever want to experience anger toward them again.
Mhm.
Good. Okay, so we've collected the thoughts that you were experiencing in that moment. So now let's look at statement number 1. Now that we've identified the thoughts that were the cause of your frustration, we can question them because, for centuries, people have wanted to stop their minds. So we have just done that. We have collected your thoughts and we have stopped them on paper. There they are. The mind stopped. So now we can do self-inquiry with it. So in statement number 1, you say, I'm frustrated with my children because they weren't listening to me. Okay, so they weren't listening to you. Is it true?
Yes.
They weren't listening to you. Can you absolutely know that it's true that they weren't listening to you?
They didn't seem like they were listening to me.
Okay, so in inquiry, the ego wants to go into discussion, but just stay in the question until you experience, you know, contemplating on that until you experience a yes or no. So could you really know that they weren't listening to you?
Well,
Yes,
I guess I,
so be there. Look, you see them fighting?
yes,
You see how involved they are?
yes.
And in all of that, they're not listening to you as well.
Right.
Can you really know that that's true?
I don't think they were. But
Okay, so your answer is still on, they weren't listening to me. Your answer is still yes. It's true. They weren't listening to me. Okay. So, and some of you listening to this, you're finding your own situation and maybe your answer was different. So, what I love about this work is it's personal work, it's ours, it's self inquiry. So, notice you see you there and you see the children fighting. The images will give you all the answers. Notice how you react. What happens when you believe the thought, they're not listening to me? What happened to you in that moment?
well,
How did you react?
I was pretty angry that they were fighting and not doing what they were supposed to. And
So you became angry. That's how you reacted.
Mhm.
When you go into because they weren't listening to me, you're defending your position and justifying it. That's okay, but just notice and continue to answer the question. What else do you see? How do you react? What happens when you think the thought they weren't listening to me? You became angry. What else?
I was trying to reason with them.
So you began to attempt to reason with them.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else? When that didn't work,
I yelled at my oldest daughter.
and you're not alone when we're believing these thoughts. It just, we actually do, yeah. And then we experience guilt. And then sometimes we become even more angry or frustrated. So are you following that? Stand on the image of Dana is frozen.
Oh, Dana's frozen.
Yes, uh-huh.
I guess that's sort of apt for this struggle. Yeah. We get very frozen in our perception.
Now she's disconnected, Waylon.
Oh, too bad. I think she's gone into a realm of deep inquiry, inspired by yourself.
Well, on hopefully she's she's dropping in as deeply as you are.
Yeah, I mean that was, well, so I guess I can jump in.
Sure.
I found that incredibly accessible, even though it wasn't my situation, because we've all, and here's Dana again, we've all been in that situation.
Exactly.
Of course, countless times in relationships or as parents or as, in our personal relationships where we feel, when I'm in that situation, I feel disempowered.
Well, you are disempowered. You're believing that they're not listening to you.
Right.
Prior to investigation, prior to even asking them.
Dana, I see you're back.
Yes, I don't know what happened. Sorry.
So Dana, close your eyes again, sweetheart, and look at your children in that situation. Look at you in that situation. And drop your story. Who would you be without the thought, they're not listening to me? Just witness.
I don't know. I guess, if I wasn't worried about how they were reacting to me, I would be more maybe listening to them.
Yeah, if I could not believe the thought they're not listening to me, I'm like you, I am able to hear them. I'm able to compassionately get in touch with their frustration, their fears, their inability to be peaceful with the idea that the other two are not listening to them and that their mother isn't listening to them also. So this meditating on that moment and who would I be, if I didn't believe that thought, who would I be in that same moment in that situation? So beautiful. And then when you look at how do I react when I believe the thought, I become just like them sometimes. Now there are 4 of us frustrated, 4 of us not listening, 4 of us angry. And then notice again, you see the situation without believing the thought they're not listening. And there you are, connected to yourself, to your children. They're just 3 people unenlightened to what you were unenlightened to. And we just can't expect more of others than we have found solutions for ourselves. So that's all 4 questions. And the work is 4 questions and turn it around. So let's find an opposite. My children aren't listening to me. What's an opposite of that?
Well, they are listening to me.
Okay, so give me an example as you look at that again, that situation. Give me an example. They are listening to me. Can you find a moment when one of them heard you? If they argued with you in that moment at all, it tells me they were listening to you.
Yes and no. My oldest, when she gets upset and when we disagree, she shuts down and she won't talk to me. She won't a lot of times respond.
And did she do that?
Yes.
So that's an example of she is listening to you. She heard clearly what you said and shut down.
Right. Yeah, she doesn't want to talk.
Well, she heard you. Next time next time she shuts down and doesn't want to talk, you cannot hold she didn't hear me. She's not listening to me because she heard you very clearly out of her own understanding.
Right.
Okay, and are any of your children deaf?
No.
Okay, so there's another example of they're listening to me. It could be that they just they have their own idea of what is right in that moment. And like you, they disagree.
Oh yeah, they do.
and they're not listening to me. I leave it to you after this call to find other areas in that moment where you can hear clearly that they were listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
So now another opposite, another turnaround. My children aren't listening to me. I'm not listening to me. Mm-hmm. So in that situation, notice some of the things you were saying and your tone of voice, that you weren't listening to you. Like when we're aware that something is unkind, we are able often to just correct it. But when we're not listening to ourselves, we become as out of order as our children, the way we perceive them to be.
I think I actually, I didn't lose control or anything like that.
Well, actually, when you raised your voice, when you actually yelled at them?
Well, what I was trying to do was tell them, I was trying to tell my oldest one that she needs to respond to my youngest one. And my youngest one, I told her she needs to clean up, so I was trying to mediate. And then my oldest one got sort of cocky, and, it
Well,
was one of
the ego will prove its case. And this is inquiry. We're questioning our case. We're questioning what we were believing in that moment. So the ego will want to go back and be right, which is exactly what your 3 children were trying to be. Everyone was trying to be right. And in that we have chaos. On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the most chaotic, yours could be on a scale of 1 to 1.5 or 2. But lack of compassion is lack of compassion. Lack of understanding is not your center. You feel it. And it looks like separation from our own children. So we're just questioning the thoughts rather than defending, which is the very position that wasn't working for us in the first place. So for me, I'm always doing my work. For me, my children weren't listening to me, and turned around, I wasn't listening to me. And then I find examples of where in that moment I wasn't listening to me and honoring my own just listening and doing what I would, just noticing, really. That's what this work is about, just noticing and waking up to the cause of suffering in that moment. So another turnaround on my children aren't listening to me. I'm not listening to my children. So what was it that one of your children said that really bothered you in that situation?
I think it was more what wasn't being said. It was sort of ignoring.
Well, actually, it was more of that. But in that situation, what did one of your children say that you really?
Well, it was more just the unresponse that I was getting. The being ignored. And then just a cocky response of okay.
So she said okay.
At the very end, after I asked her if she was listening, she said okay.
Okay.
So, that kind of stuff.
Good. So she said okay. So were you listening? My children are listening to me.
Oh, yes.
I'm not listening to my child. She said okay.
Yeah, I was listening to her.
And she stopped fighting. She stopped arguing. She stopped all of it and said, okay. She did everything you wanted all 3 of them to do. But what you were thinking and believing about her in that moment, it's like she was complying with everything you wanted, but what you were thinking and believing about her still didn't leave you in peace.
Right.
Okay. So what you're thinking and believing about someone is the cause of the stress, not what your daughter, obviously it wasn't your daughter that gave you peace. It was you that can give you peace. I kind of skipped around on that one because I just leave it to you to do what you do with it. And then we let's look at so we can maybe work with a couple of other people. Yeah. Let's look at statement 5. What you wrote is they are selfish, My youngest is selfish and immature for her age. Okay? So let's turn it around. In that moment, I was. In that moment, as you look back on it, would you consider yourself, in your own experience, more immature for your age than you'd like to be in that moment?
No.
Okay. Okay. So, no, that's okay. So, this is your work. It's your work. So they are selfish and immature for their age. Talking about your youngest daughter, she is giving and mature for her age.
Mm-hmm.
So can you find examples in that moment where she was mature and giving for her age, considering the circumstances?
Right. I think they both, they didn't let it escalate. They didn't let it get bigger, so that was a positive.
Good.
So.
And in my experience, I'm not really looking for positive. I'm looking for examples, and it just happens that they're positive.
Mm-hmm.
That all of that is in the space when I'm believing that she's being immature for her age and selfish. If I'm of right mind, I can see what's really there if it's there, and that is that, in so many ways she was mature and unselfish, even generous.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about looking at that space after the fact, going back over again until there's nothing to forgive. Nothing to forgive. I when this work found me, this way of questioning the mind, questioning itself. It was the strangest thing, Dana. I had two sons, and they were grown. I was 43, and they were like in their late teens, early 20s, late teens and early 20s. And the three of us were in the same room, and they started arguing. And I just, for whatever reason, I was so connected just witnessing them. And because I had really done my work. And then they started fighting like little children, selfish and immature. They began to actually fight and roll around. And there was this large glass coffee table. And I had the thought, if they fell on that coffee table, someone could really get hurt. And then it occurred to me that if I knew the coffee table was there, they knew the coffee table was there. Otherwise, I would say, watch out, you could hurt yourself on the coffee, me directing it and them not listening and me being upset. And so I just gave them credit for understanding at least what I could understand. And so I witnessed. And here's what these two grown men were screaming or loudly calling out for. They were going, Mom, Mom, make them stop. So it's like all their lives I had taught them that I am the answer, that without me, they can't stop themselves. And being so connected, this compassion for them and what they had learned from me. And, that gratitude and that combination of gratitude, compassion, love, all in just that experience. So in all of that, they noticed that I was smiling and I don't know if they could see how connected I was, but I was connected and I was smiling. It was so amazing watching these two sons, and they stopped. And Dana, it was the end. I mean, they stopped. That was the end of it. And it's as though out of my peace they found peace. And so this work, for those of you listening, it's tough because we meet ourselves. And for me, I thought it was much easier to meet my children on in an odd way, but to meet myself was to literally meet my children with unconditional love. So inquiry is very confrontive, and it's a little weird at first, but Dana, you're very brave, honey. This work is so personal, and thank you for your open heart.
Thank you.
And what I get from you is you're an amazing mother, and we would all be, we're all growing. There's no time when it's done. We're just expanding, growing, and like our children, doing the best we can.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah, well, thank you to both of you. I think it's easy to take for granted how brave it is for someone like Dana to put yourself.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And when someone wants to come to Turnaround House, it's a 28-day program I have for the work here in Ojai. But when someone wants to come to Turnaround, boy, they've got to want it. It's like their mommy can't have sent them. Right. Or their husband or their wife or their brother or sister, they've got to want to come, because this, if you don't really want to know the truth, you don't really want to. It's like we think we want to know it, but it costs us our identity, Waylon.
Yeah.
And that's a terrifying thing. When we step into inquiry, we lose the world, the entire world as we understand it to be, and it leaves another. And an entirely different identity. I know every time I do the work, I come out as a more compassionate, kinder human being. So it really takes an open mind.
Yeah, Katie, I feel like it shows in your eyes. I mean, you can see it.
And an open mind is a state of grace. When our mind's not open, it's not open. So if my mind's not open, I certainly wouldn't force it. That's another place where compassion is, it's a beautiful thing in that moment, just to be with oneself and know that everything changes and everything in its time.
Yeah, I love, what I took away from that, and I've had the pleasure of learning about the work before with you, is that what you just said, we put so much energy into thinking we want to change, but really just justifying our position, which solidifies the status quo that we're actually frustrated about.
Yeah. The ego wants to change when its identity isn't working for it anymore.
Right.
Yeah. And so when it begins to step into self-inquiry, it's a lot. But when the identity is threatened and no longer working, we finally get to it. Self-inquiry is about the mind, the ego, the mind meeting itself. And I invite people that do step into this work, into self-inquiry, to just be gentle. Just be gentle and get still, and it's okay.
Yeah. So we have two others here. We may just have time for one. That was beautiful. I think we're at 37 minutes or something. But we don't want to rush through this because it's so valuable. We have a lot of audience questions. I'd love to just ask one simple one, if I could.
Sure.
And if other people want to ask questions, please go ahead, and we'll put them in the blog on elephantjournal.com, and we'll try and get answers.
Or if people just have a question, our time is limited, and I'm up for anything. So.
Great, I love it. So we have a lot of this on Elephant, a lot of issues, so many questions. Let me find the one. I'm having an issue around not being able to find questions. Here it is. It's a very simple one, but not simple at all, of course. How do I apply the work surrounding to my body image? Can I detach from my body image self-obsession? A lot of people, just give a little context with Elephant, we get a lot of the most popular.
Sure. You know, mind is not body. Mind is not physical matter. Mind, if you took every thought in the world and put it in a big basket in front of you, you look into the basket, there's nothing. You see nothing. So mind is not matter.
Yeah.
So mind identifies as something. That doesn't make it something. It just believes that this is its identity. So the body is, it might be helpful to speak of it as though the ego sees it as collateral, a way to get what it wants. So its whole life, its whole mental life becomes about staying identified as this. So every thought is about the security of this thing it calls itself. It believes to be itself. And then when it feels secure, that it's safe, then it's all about its comfort, the comfort of this thing, and then it's all about pleasure. So in pleasure, all pleasure is pain because it is it's remembering. Pleasure is simply remembering and projecting, anticipating. And so where is the pleasure really? So that's why I say it's painful. It can never. So if I have the thought because I have done self-inquiry, it's like I have, I'm free of the body, I mind. Now, this may help also, Waylon. But if people think I want my body to be healthy and beautiful and attractive and fluid, okay, so do you want that? If you had to make a choice, would you choose that? Or I want my thoughts, my thinking to be beautiful, to be fluid, to be healthy, to be flexible. I mean, if you had to make a choice, there's no contest. This doesn't make it. This, at some point, the mind can't imagine itself to be this because, let's say, it just stops. We call it death. Which is also a projection. It stops, and the mind can't say, get up. And it doesn't matter if the mind says, I'm doing it wrong. There's something to matter. It doesn't matter. This isn't moving. So the mind can no longer identify as this. So that's kind of, I hope that's helpful. But I suggest that we work on the mind. We take the mind to the gym. That we begin to practice, as a practice, a daily practice, just 5, 10, 20 minutes a day of just identifying our thoughts and questioning them, and take the mind to that gym, and the body will follow. For example, I cannot have a not perfect body. I cannot have the perfect body in every moment because I'm not this. And so this, we could say, at least, is an expression of mind. So if someone says, Waylon, you are fabulous, are we talking about your body or are we talking about your mind? And then if someone says, Waylon, you're fabulous, if you identify that as you, then, for me, I'm out to lunch. If someone says, Katie, you're beautiful, they're certainly not talking about my physical body. And it's okay if they do. It's just that I can't hear it that way. And also meeting my husband, it's like I didn't meet his physical body. I was immediately attracted to his mind. It is so loving to my mind and balanced and compassionate, and I'm entirely connected with that. But if I am very identified with my body as I was as a young woman, I would not have been attracted to him. I want someone that can give me security, even though it's false. I am secure. He can make me comfortable. He can, it's a pleasure to be, so, you marry a body, and anyway, I think I've said enough there, but I hope it helps.
Yeah, I hope it helps the questioner. It certainly helps me. So thank you. Do you have time for one more question?
Yes, I hear we have 5 minutes.
Yeah. So there's so many questions here. Let's see. I think all of these are almost deserving of a long time. I think maybe we should just wrap. I think Dana.
Waylon, looking back at Dana's work just for a moment,
Please.
On a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, when we fill it in, statements 2, 3, and 4. Your show is walking the talk.
Yeah.
So questions 2, 3, and 4, when we turn them around to the self and to the other, those opposites, give us clear direction. For example, in that moment, if I want my daughter to hear me, the next time that situation arises again with my daughter or any human being, that turnaround, I want me to hear my daughter. So if I'm going to walk my talk, I'm going to give what I want.
Yeah.
So I want me to hear my daughter in that moment. I want her to be compassionate. In that moment, when my daughter is out of control, we'll say that wasn't Dana's daughter, but let's say out of control, I want me to be compassionate toward my daughter.
I love it.
And then walking my talk, I want me to hear me when I'm out of control or not being compassionate. I want me to hear what I'm saying, thinking and believing, and put it on a worksheet and question it and get me squared away. And I want me to, and I want, yeah. And then, that statement too turned around, and then advice on the should. My daughter should, I can't, let's see, my daughter should stop fighting was one of them. If I'm going to walk my talk and I've done my work, I'm going to be aware of, I want me to stop fighting. When my daughter's fighting with me or anyone else, I want me to stop fighting in that moment. And in Dana's words turned around, I need me to care about them. If they don't care about me, that's theirs. Do I care about them? And then, so we've done the wants, needs, but the wants, needs, and shoulds, those are the prescription for happiness. And I invite the world to it. What do we do? What do we do when we're angry? Well, it's right there on a worksheet. And if we have really done our work, it makes sense to us. And it gives us what we want. It gives us clear advice and direction. And it shows us where our happiness lies when other people are not giving it to us. So, those were a lot of words, and people new to the work don't even expect this to make sense to you, and if it does, good. And Waylon, sweetheart, thank you for our time together. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, generous. What you just said, I think what we can take away is, reminds me of that Albert Einstein quote where we're not going to get what we want if we keep trying to find the solution with the same attitude that created the problem. And if we just have self-inquiry and realize that our problems are not as solid as we seem to think they are.
Yes. And I believe it was, I don't know if I believe it or not, but as I recall, it was Einstein that said an uninvestigated life is not worth living.
Yeah.
I just heard Stan whisper in my voice, Socrates.
Yeah, I was thinking Thoreau, so we're there somewhere. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Byron, Katie, and we'll try and get to our other guests another time. If you'd like to come back, you're always more than welcome. Katie, thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you.
So as always, we'll put all these questions on the blog. We can at least have a good discussion around self-inquiry ourselves using the worksheet and the resources on your website. Thework.com, is that correct?
Thework.com.
And you can always find all our videos, including our other conversations with Byron Katie, on youtube.com/Waylon H. Lewis and SoundCloud. So thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you, Waylon. Thank you for peace.
Thank you.